Kahit maglalaban ng RSG tsaka SRG. Anong klaseng laban makita natin?
Siguro yung mga prime namin. Parehas kasi kami MSC champion. Siguro yung yung MSC performance namin.
Sobrang mainit ng series na to kasi parehong malakas na teams and alam naman natin yung dalawang teams merong different strengths or identity with each other. Hanapin ni si Keys kung nasan si Aqua, and then si Aqua he's gonna make sure that maganda yung position niya and ready yung mga teammates niya to protect him from si Keys.
SRG would have to win. And my reasoning behind it is that we've progressed as a meta. We've evolved. We've learned more about micro. We've learned more about macro. We understand so many more things in competitive play than we did 2 years ago. And that evolution applies whether or not even, let's restrict SRG to not playing the newest heroes, the latest heroes of 2024, and had to play within the same meta of 2022. I think that current SRG would still do well.
Anong klaseng laro? May aggressive ba? Matagal? Mabilis?
Feeling ko saktong bilis lang kasi tatapusin agad namin sila eh.
It's gonna be entertaining. It's gonna be a back and forth series.
I think that it's gonna be hella aggressive. I think it's gonna be maybe not for the first couple of games. I don't think it'll be as calculated. Maybe SRG is more likely to do that, but I do feel like the latter half, if it goes into the best of 5 regions, best of 7s, it's gonna be long and drawn out. But if one side is winning, they're gonna win hard. They're gonna win really, really fast, and it's gonna look really, really calculated. Like both sides are doing the exact same thing.
SRG versus RSG, anong score?
Para sa akin 4-0 RSG.
Tingin ko ultimately kami pa rin yung makakuha ng win.
But in a best of 7, this is where it all comes around, where I think SRG will generally take it 4-2. So I'll give or take, I'm being a little bit generous on this. I think, an honest answer or a very safe answer would be 4-3, but I think that 4-2 is enough because there is that one coin flip game, that 50-50 game where SRG finally says, yes, we figured you out, and now we have a proper response to it. Because again, a lot of the success coming in from RSG really, Nats was at a really good peak in his career. He was basically crushing every other EXP lane, which made a lot of how RSG looked so dominant was from his side of the map, or even from Iman's side of the map if he's not doing as well. But generally, we saw that if Nats did well, it would pretty much be a 100% win rate for RSG.
You can't say that.
You are incorrect.
That doesn't work. No, that doesn't.
You are incorrect.
This is Throwback Throwdown. Any team, any region, any era. Best of 7. It's episode 3, and we're pitting against each other. MSC champions.
Yes, sir. Let's go.
It's RSG Philippines from MSC 2022 facing off against SRG from MSC 2024. Okay, Wami, which camp are you taking?
I'm taking SRG. I love them Red Giants. I like it when it's big.
Okay. I was there when. Oh, you were there when he was part of that. I'll call it. He called it. I also was part of the squad that called RSG winning in Malaysia. So I'm for the Raiders. Okay. Let's talk about these two squads first. RSG Philippines, they won MPL Philippines Season 9 before flying out to Malaysia to eventually win. And then the season prior to that, 5-6. They were 5-6, and that was their debut season.
Yeah.
Talk about SRG.
You're strong, man. SRG has one of the longest winning streak out there, and they're quite famous for bringing out the alpha during Esports World Cup, and that's MSC 2023, as far as I remember. And the best part about that is they dethroned Falcon Safety Brand.
It was 2024.
2024. Yeah, that's 2024. But yeah, they dethroned Falcon Safety Brand, the current world champions, in a 7-game series, which is honestly quite hard to do. Because the thing about Filipino teams in general is that I think a common denominator between all of these good teams is that they're just really good when it comes to best of 5s and best of 7s.
And they took FCAP all the way to the 7th game, and they still won. So, with that said, real quick recap. Season 13, MPLMY, SRG won. And then season 12, they were 3rd. So you already see how close they were to actually winning, how great they were already prior to becoming MSC champions. Okay, let's go from lane to lane and consider who might win. Alright, so the lineup for RSG Philippines at the time was Nats,
Nats.
Aqua, Demonkite, Light, and then Exort as their sub.
Yeah.
And then
Didn't
Coach
play,
G
though.
and Coach Panda. He didn't play, but he was there every day.
Yeah, it was there. It was there.
All right, so that's their 8-man lineup. Who's SRG?
Yeah, for SRG, we have Cram, Stormy, Innocent, Coach Arcadia. We also have Sekis or Sekais, and also Stormy and Youngs.
You said Stormy twice.
Maybe he's that good, man. Maybe that's why Stormy.
And you missed
said-
Gojes. And you missed Coach Ozorovecki.
I'm sorry, Ozorovecki. I know you're a great guy. That's what they say. I never met you in person. I hope
All
I
right.
can, though.
XP lane matchup. Cram versus Nats. I think Nats wins.
I agree. No, man, I'm kidding. That Cram on EWC was different, bro. I would say like in the Philippines, Cram really struggled, mainly because he was put in a role where he had to be a punching bag, and I feel like that's not the type of gameplay that makes Cram shine the most. Cram really likes it when he's able to take risks and also deal damage to begin with. And that's why during EWC, we were able to see him play really well into this assassin-centric meta in a way that he's a big nuisance to enemy assassins in general. And if you're gonna go up against Nats, I think in a 1v1 setup, sure, Nats wins. But in a team setup, I think Cram with SRG just plays better.
But here's the thing, it's not always a team situation.
That's
sure, Cram can hold it down, Cram can be a sandbag, but you know what makes Nats so dangerous is leading up to the big team fights. Nats has already created such a big lead between him and his lane mate that it's over. It's so easy to roll you over. So I think that's why Nats wins. It's not because Nats is useless in team fight, but because Nats built up to that advantage and that he can bully the opponent. So if it's a lane per lane, I think Nats wins.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, moving on. Let's go to mid lane. Stormy versus Aqua.
Here's something that I could actually double down. I think Aqua definitely lacks some hero pool in general. He's a very specialized mid laner. Like, don't get me wrong. Doesn't like a low hero pool doesn't mean he sucks. Like, he's actually the best Kagura that you would watch.
It's very technical.
He's very technical on this stuff. And timing is great as well. But Stormy, on the other hand, plays so many heroes. I feel like that's what makes him special to begin with. Like he could play so much in an actual competitive match that in a best of 7, it really showed that his important and a big hero pool just helped SRG win against Faculty Brand.
Yeah. And what makes Stormy so dangerous is that he makes all of these heroes lethal. He makes them all super violent. He makes them all work for the team fighting that SRG is so good at. But again, what Aqua brings to the table is the technicality, the space control, and the way he just answers to what Light is doing, what Nats is doing, to support and to make better what everything else is happening for RSG. But okay, I was gonna try to argue for it, but I think Stormy wins this one.
Yeah. Maybe Aqua could take a few games, but in a long haul best of 7, it's gonna start to show.
Yeah. It's gonna come to a point wherein the heroes of Aqua will be like, again? Like the Eve again?
Banned
the Valentina
whatever,
again? And take note, for Throwback Throwdown, we isolate the meta game. So hero picks, hero pools, the meta, the patch, we would try to not think about that too much. It's more of what the players bring and what the team functions as. Okay,
Yes, sir.
We'll move on to the jungle. Demonkite versus Sekais.
Ooh, all right. That's one.
Sekais was MVP, by the way.
Yeah, for my defense against, because the thing is, Demonkite in their MSC run was also spectacular.
Yeah.
But for Sekais, I do feel like he was beyond godly, mainly because he was underrated in a way that people didn't really think that he could like beat up Kyrie or beat up Kyle TZ.
Yeah. Beat up Carl TZ.
Beat up Carl TZ too, honestly. But
Did they? They never met.
They never met. But regardless, the bracket. But in terms of hero pool, I wouldn't really say that he has the biggest hero pool. But in terms of how really good he plays those lane picks and maybe even the alpha, could be a big plus to what he could offer. And with the meta during the EWC, I feel like it helped them out so much that Sekai's ability to play these picks that became eventually power picks in the MPLs of all regions allowed SRG to perform really well. So yes, Sekai was MVP. Yes, he was really fast with his fingers and all. But again, hero pool. That's something that I'm quite shaky with.
But luckily, that's not something we consider heavily here.
That's true.
Demonkite in his run with RSG PH and MSC, he was the full package. Like mechanics, macro, you put him behind, you put him ahead, like he's good. But in MSC 2024, Sekai's was that plus more.
Yeah,
he really shined above the rest. So okay, as much as it hurts me, I think Sekai's wins this. How about the gold lane? Eman
Eman
versus
goddamn
Innocent. Eman was MVP.
I have to. I want to fight for Innocent.
No,
man,
dude, Eman.
It's hard because if I'm being honest, Innocent is a good gold laner.
He's a reliable gold laner.
Reliable gold laner. You know, what I could say good about Innocent is that his time in SRG allowed him to just perform really well, even if he's in the front lines, because everybody was so fucking aggressive.
Everyone was just fighting.
Everyone was just fighting, so he could pull off especially during the time where Roger was the god of gold.
Yep.
It allowed Innocent to play so well because Roger likes that. Roger loves playing around those small fights. And the moment SRG focuses on that type of fights, Innocent just does so well, you know? But you're right, like, fuck, I'm not even gonna fight anymore.
Yep.
MSC Eman was a different beast on itself.
Yep.
His Beatrix plays and everything else was top tier.
Harriet, he's so good at bullying. He's so good at surviving these bad situations. And again, how aggressive RSG was when they were on their death ball means that Eman doesn't need to be ready. Eman can just follow up, follow through. Aqua will help him prop up to a good position, and then it's over. So again, MVP performance, Eman hits diff. That's that. Last but not least, Light versus Yums. To the roamers we go.
All right.
Light is a super high IQ player.
I agree. One of the smartest out there, if I'm being honest.
Genius.
Yeah.
What does Yums bring?
I think Killer Instinct in general. I don't think he could compete with game IQ against Light. Surely Yums is smart.
Instinct-wise, there's some there for Yums.
There's just something for Yums. Like, whenever these small fights happen that SRG loves doing, he knows how to position himself well in a way that they could just find those targets really quickly. And if there's one pick that I really remember coming in from Yums, these are like the pick-off-centric heroes, like Cho,
Ruby.
mostly Cho, a lot of Ruby as well. But when we look at Yums in general, it just allows it, like his entire team, SRG in general, allows him to play that way. I feel like if you put him in on another team, he'd look bad. But if you put him with SRG, he's looking great.
Yeah. So, with that said, I think I can hear it in your voice, and you guys know it already. I personally think Light wins.
I agree.
Light wins. Yums is a veteran. Yums is great even when he was with Todak.
Yeah.
But I will argue that Light wins that matchup.
I agree as well. Like, IQ is very important when you're wrong. I'm not saying that Yums is stupid, I'm just saying that Light is just a bit more smarter.
Light's built diff. Even in his Unravel days, Light's built diff.
Unravel days, yeah.
Okay, so as a whole, let's talk about these teams' strengths and weaknesses. I'll go first. RSG Philippines, they're so good at protecting Eman. They make sure that their gold lane is safe, or at least to some degree safe, so that when they get that death ball rolling, they can win those fights decisively. They can do the same with the XP, because again, you'll remember Nats with his Benedetta, Nats with his Esmeralda. He just does so well at controlling that lane that eventually, when the rotations happen, nothing. You can't answer back.
Yeah.
So that's what they're good at. Number two, those plays come from the XP mainly. So you start strong with the turtle, and then it just snowballs out of control. They're capable of making these comebacks happen, but let's believe RSG are always on the front foot, which is explained by how they 4-0'd RRQ in the finals. And then last but not least, they're just so good at team fighting, especially because they have such a great mid duo in Aqua and Light. They can find the flank, they can control the space, and then go from there. Those are main strengths for RSG.
And I guess main strengths for the side of SRG, we're looking at team fighting in general. I feel like if we dive deeper in the word team fighting, they're just really good with their formation. around Lord areas, or even small fights that they really thrive in. So when we look at those formations, it's always depending on what kind of fight they want to bring. So it's either sometimes it would be like their gold laners in front or stuff like that, but almost all the time they have perfect formation and perfect timing in turning into team fights in general. Then the second one would be how they're able to hold the XP lane with Cram. We talked about Cram already being the punching bag or whatever, but he also likes taking risks. So apart from holding these lanes, he's also able to hold the line quite literally in team fights. So I feel like that's also one of their strengths. And then lastly would be their trio mid, where again, when we talk about SRG, it's aggressiveness. So with the gold laner and the XP laner just doing their thing in the side lane, the small fights that we always talk about could happen mainly because the trio mid is so fast in what they want to do.
Yeah, and it's that Malaysian trio. Again, Coach Arcadia, Ozravecki, the coaches, the SRG org, they understood that this is the chemistry that we needed. So I agree, like, after that trio mid gets their way with you, it's over. The rest follows. How about weaknesses? All right, I'll talk about RSG's weaknesses. Number one, they can be victim to fatigue. That's what happened in that lower bracket matchup, or the upper bracket matchup where they were sent to the lower bracket by RRQ. A lot of those matches went all the way. A lot of those games went all the way, and sometimes you're able to like stop the death ball, and then you're left to wonder like, okay, how do we do this? We're inside our base, we can defend out of our minds, but what do we do from here?
Yeah,
that's one. Number two is hero pools from role to role can sometimes get choked out. So we did say that we're not gonna talk about the patch or the hero pools too much, but from a player perspective, you can chalk it up to like a lack of diversity. So I don't want to say the word vanilla, but sometimes you can feel RSG is kind of vanilla.
Yeah.
So I think those are the two main weaknesses, and that's why it's just these two weaknesses that were exposed in that upper bracket to lower bracket run. But they fixed it on the way to the grand finals. That's why they won MSC.
That's true. I think a big credit to Nats as well for tempo breaking a lot of stuff. Like sometimes we would just break the tempo so hard, and it would just fuck over a team. So
in effort to not get to the ultra late game.
Exactly.
So they didn't know how to deal with that sometimes.
He's a real one for that. And for SRG, I feel like the two weaknesses that we can talk about SRG is that one, displacement just really fucks them up as well. Like we talked about how formation is a strength for SRG. So the main counter to that is having good displacement. In the games that SRG lost, it's usually because one of their carries just got broken off at this one big composition that
Stormy.
they have. Yeah, it's always that one important guy that gets picked off, and it's such an important factor that SRG functions so well as long as almost everyone is alive for the first few sequences of the fight. So the moment one guy gets picked off early, suddenly they have unclear objectives.
They lose direction.
So, yeah, they lose their direction inside their fight. So second would be people who know how to play safe, like extend the game.
Yeah.
And if somebody could freeze the timer in that hard and use heroes that could clear the wave again and again and again, it becomes extremely hard for SRG to just finish these games as quickly as possible. And yes, even if you win team fights, but there are survivors, and those survivors could quote-unquote just clear the wave again and again, it's going to be hard for SRG to finish that game. So we're talking about the picks such as like the Lilia, or even the Beatrix to a certain degree, or the Nathan. People who could just clear waves all day all long.
And that's hand in hand with the play style.
Yeah.
If the team understands what it takes to get to the ultra late game, you can try to get that first weakness off first, pick off these key heroes, these key players, and then, SRG is left out. Okay, so now that we kind of know how they play, what makes them so strong, lane per lane, what happens, let's talk about this hypothetical match, all right? This hypothetical game, 1, 2, 3, all the way to 7, if it has to get there. What does the early game look like? Because these two teams, they sound similar to me. Like, they both like fighting. They both like, initiating when they're proactive, when they're in control. Neither of them are counter-punch teams. Do you think, like,
Nah.
They're not counter-punch teams?
They're like straightforward.
Just honest.
Honest.
Okay, so who wins the early game?
I gotta say, like, or when do we start stop looking at the early game.
Post
After
laning.
first turtle?
Yeah. After post laning, so 1-5.
Well, I'd say SRG will only start shining after the second turtle.
Yeah, so I think you're right. RSG, especially if Light gets heroes that really allow for him to lean in.
Yeah.
So RSG more often gets early.
Yeah.
Okay, how about mid game?
That's where our SRG shines.
That's where they turn.
Yeah, that's where they turn. Like right before that first Lord or during the third turtle of the game, that's where they usually make their big plays that eventually turn into a big lead or a big snowball for people. And with that, I do feel like, but come third Lord, as long as they're not too behind from
Lord or turtle?
yeah, I mean third turtle or first Lord, as long as they're not too behind, they're gonna be able to win that team fight. Because usually that's what happens. And even if they're like behind for 2,000, that will mean like maybe 5K, or we're talking something else.
Okay, so you get a 5K gold lead, maybe bigger, sometimes in the late game, if it gets there.
Yeah.
Who's better in the late game for you, and why? I think it's hard for me to say RSG because a lot of turnarounds in the EWC happened off of SRG.
Yeah, that's true.
A lot of early game to mid game they lost, and then like suddenly, all right, we got this.
Yeah, SRG definitely takes it late game. Not to say that RSG is not able to find that big game-winning play, but SRG just more consistent in finding or making ways to find that situation happen.
Yeah, if there's anything that I can say for RSG pre-mid game, is they're usually so consistent in getting that snowball, and you rarely have to see them go to the late. They're usually just so in control that there's no comeback.
Yeah, there's only one time that they were behind at 7,000 gold and won the game. RSG, I think that was against RRQ. That was one time.
Just
but
once.
that was mainly because RRQ kind of fucked themselves over.
They
But
dropped the ball.
You didn't hear that from me.
So with that said, what's the shortest possible game here? I can see like games ending at 10 or 11.
I agree.
But that's an RSG win.
Yeah, that's an RSG win. But the moment the clock takes 14 or 15, SRG is most likely to take that game.
Yeah, and SRG is capable of taking the game to 20, 25, and still maintaining a level of control even inside their own base.
Yeah.
So with that said, let's talk about the scores. How far are they going to take it? Again, a best of 7. I think SRG is a better built squad compared to RRQ at the time that RSG faced RRQ. So I think instead of the 4-0, I think they're going to go 4-2. 4-2 RSG.
I think it's gonna be 4-2 SRG, man. It's like 2 games. RSG is gonna surprise the out of SRG, but eventually SRG would start picking on heroes that RSG might be abusing. So that's what I think, like 4-2. I wouldn't say it would be clean sweep or a 4-1 because RSG MSC was just that good.
What do you guys think? Let us know. I think it's RSG.
I think it's SRG.
I said 4-2.
I said 4-2 too.
What do you think? Let us know in the comments below. He's Omi, I'm Leo. This has been Throwback Throwdown. Any team, any era, any region, best of 7. Tell us who you want to see face off next, alright? Peace. You can't. So fast.